Walk into a dealership and they'll tell you all about premium touring bikes while pointing at the bike with the biggest price tag. What they won't mention is that some of the most bulletproof touring machines ever built cost less than a used Honda Civic. The secret isn't how much you spend, it's whether the bike was designed to actually get ridden every day or just look pretty in your garage. Although this list is just the tip of the iceberg, the good news is that these are purpose-built tourers, more capable and better equipped for the long haul than ever. We didn't have room for every possible model, so feel free to list your choices in the comments below. Here's 9 touring motorcycles that you buy once and end up keeping forever. Starting with number 9, Honda Goldwing. 50 years in production, and the fact that Honda is still building it in 2025 says everything you need to know before you even look at the spec sheet. The Goldwing didn't start as a luxury tourer. The original 1975 GL1000 was a naked sport bike that customers kept strapping luggage and fairings onto because it was that good on the highway. Honda watched what riders were doing with it and built the next generation to match. That habit carried all the way to the bike you can buy today. The current GL1800 runs an 1833cc horizontally opposed 6-cylinder engine, liquid-cooled, producing around 125 horsepower and 125 foot-pounds of torque. That power comes as a long, rolling swell from the bottom of the rev range, not a hit at the top. 6-speed manual or 7-speed DCT automatic with reverse. Reverse. On a motorcycle that weighs close to 850 pounds, you will use it. Shaft drive eliminates the chain entirely, which on long tours means no chain lube stops, no adjustment, no worn sprockets, showing up 800 miles from home. The double wishbone front suspension keeps the chassis level under hard braking instead of nosediving like conventional forks. And at this weight class, that stability is not a minor detail. $25,500 is a serious number, but Goldwing owners are not trading these in after 3 years. They are putting 100,000 miles on them and buying another one. Maintenance intervals are long. The engine runs well under its limits for the displacement it carries, and the reliability record spans multiple decades of real-world touring, not just test track claims. What makes it last isn't one clever engineering trick. It's Honda spending 50 years finding out what breaks and fixing it before the next model year. Tires and brake pads are your main recurring costs at this weight, and everything else is scheduled oil changes and the occasional valve check. For a motorcycle this capable, that's a short list. Coming in at number 8, BMW R1300RT. When European police departments pick a motorcycle for daily fleet duty, they're not shopping for style. They need something that starts every morning, handles 700 miles in a shift, holds up through a decade of that, and doesn't strand an officer on the side of a motorway. The RT has been the default answer for those departments for decades, and that credibility is not marketing. It is documented fleet history. The engine is a 1300cc horizontally opposed twin, liquid-cooled, producing around 145 horsepower, tuned heavily toward mid-range pull rather than peak output. BMW's telelever front suspension separates braking forces from steering geometry, so when you grab a handful of front brake at speed, the chassis stays composed instead of pitching the nose down. On a 600+ pound motorcycle doing Autobahn speeds, composed is exactly what you want. Shaft drive handles the final drive, same as the Goldwing, same reasoning. The 2026 R1300RT adds radar-assisted cruise control that follows traffic and blind spot monitoring built into the fairing. You can ride it in full automatic mode through city traffic using the automated shift assistant, then flip to manual for mountain passes. Heated grips and seat, electrically adjustable windscreen, a full TFT display with navigation. It is genuinely one of the most complete touring packages sold anywhere at any price. That price sits at $22,645, which puts it below the Goldwing, while arguably offering sharper handling and more active safety technology. The trade is in maintenance cost. BMW dealer service is not cheap, and the complexity of the electronics means this is not a garage mechanic bike. When it's serviced correctly, it runs for enormous mileage. The police fleets are proof of that. You just have to commit to keeping it on schedule and accept that premium engineering comes with premium service costs. For riders doing 500 miles a day regularly, that calculus makes sense. 7th on the list, Yamaha FJR1300ES. Riders call this the bulletproof rocket ship of the touring world. While the BMW evolves with radar screens and the Goldwing leans into full luxury, the FJR follows a different philosophy. Stretched out sport bike that happens to tour instead of a purpose-built tourer trying to feel sporty. The 1298cc liquid-cooled inline-4 is superbike smooth with an eerie lack of vibration that pulls like a freight train from almost any gear. Yamaha tuned it for strong mid-range and steady highway operation rather than high-strung peak performance, which is exactly why police and authority fleets run them. In 2016, they finally moved from a 5-speed to a 6-speed gearbox, which dropped highway RPM significantly and made 80+ miles per hour. Cruising feel effortless and quiet. Despite weighing 642 pounds, it's surprisingly nimble. Weight sits low in the twin-spar aluminum frame, making it more flickable in corners than other heavy tourers. It doesn't handle like a luxury barge. The ES trim adds electronically adjustable suspension with a push of a button. 4 preload settings cover solo, solo with luggage, 2-up, and 2-up with luggage. 3 damping presets with fine-tuning within each. You dial it in for the actual load you're carrying that day instead of guessing at a static setup. The ES also adds LED cornering lights that illuminate the inside of a turn as you lean, which matters when you're covering mountain passes at pace. 6.6 gallons of fuel capacity gives you serious range between stops. Shaft drive cuts routine touring headaches like chain maintenance. The engine design is mature, proven over decades of real-world owner mileage, with many hitting 100,000 miles on normal service schedules. $18,299 makes it one of the strongest value options in high-speed touring. That saves you over $4,000 compared to the BMW and over $7,000 compared to the Goldwing, and you're still getting to the same places just as reliably. The trade-off is a missing iPad dashboard and radar cruise, not a missing engine. It lacks the modern tech overlay, but makes up for it with raw mechanical feel and lower maintenance complexity. 6th, Suzuki GSX-S1000GT Plus. When this replaced the GSX-S1000F in 2022, Suzuki didn't reinvent anything. They took the GSX-R1000K5 engine that's been around since the mid-2000s and tuned it for street torque instead of track screaming. 20 years of that motor being thrashed on racetracks and commuter highways means every weak point already got found and fixed a decade ago. You're not beta testing new engineering. You're riding debugged technology. $14,399, 498 pounds wet. Put that next to the Goldwing at 25,500 and over 800 pounds, and you start seeing why some riders pick this instead. You're saving $11,000 and 300 pounds of weight, which shows up everywhere, from how fast the tires wear to how much stress the brakes take, to how easy it is to muscle around a parking lot when you're tired after a long day. The slipper clutch keeps the rear wheel from hopping when you downshift hard coming into corners. The quick shifter lets you bang through gears without touching the clutch lever, which means fewer transmission-damaging missed shifts over 80,000 miles. The GT Plus trim gives you factory panniers that actually look like they belong on the bike, cruise control for those back-to-back highway days, and a TFT display that handles your phone and navigation without needing a handlebar mount that rattles loose. Chain drive means you're cleaning and lubing every 600 miles. You'll replace the chain eventually. That's the maintenance trade for keeping weight down and throttle response sharp. Shaft drive is convenient, but it adds pounds and dulls the feel between your wrist and the rear wheel. Suzuki picked the sportier option, and if you want that lighter weight and sharper response, you accept the routine chain work. What keeps this running is using components that already have track records. The K5 inline-4 isn't experimental. The aluminum frame is conventional sport bike engineering. Traction control and ride modes are mature systems that got debugged on other bikes first. You're not paying to beta test new technology on long trips. You're buying proven parts, doing familiar work. 5th on the list, Honda NT1100 DCT. Honda took the Africa Twin Adventure platform, pulled off the knobby tires and off-road suspension, and wrapped it in a full fairing with hard panniers. What you end up with is a road bike built on hardware designed to survive the Dakar Rally. If a steel frame and parallel twin can handle getting bounced off rocks in the desert at race pace, then your morning commute isn't going to stress it. The 1084cc parallel twin is the same motor that powers the Africa twin. They just gave it different gearing and better wind protection. The steel frame flexes and absorbs hits, instead of transferring every bump straight through to your spine or cracking under load. On smooth highway, that durability sits there unused, but when you slam into an unexpected pothole at 70, it's the difference between a harsh jolt and potential frame damage. The DCT automatic transmission means there's no clutch to burn out in stop-and-go traffic, and no missed shifts putting extra wear on the gearbox. The computer manages gear changes smoother and faster than most riders do manually, which reduces stress on the transmission internals. You can flip it to manual mode when you want control, or leave it automatic when you're crawling through rush hour. Either way, the transmission isn't depending on your clutch control skills to stay healthy. $11,999 with integrated panniers and a 5.4-gallon tank. The seat sits at 32.3 inches with a taller option available. At 547 pounds, it's light enough to handle easily, but heavy enough to stay planted in crosswinds. You're back to chain maintenance every few hundred miles instead of the shaft drive convenience, but that keeps weight down and power delivery direct. The Africa Twin platform was overbuilt for street use on purpose. Rally bikes have to survive conditions that would destroy most motorcycles. The NT1100 just takes that toughness and points it at pavement. Nothing on this bike is being asked to work harder than it was designed to handle. Number 4. Suzuki V-Strom 650. The bike your dentist rides to work every day, and then takes to Colorado on the weekend without changing anything except adding the optional panniers. In production since 2004, because Suzuki found a formula that works and had the discipline not to mess with it. The 645cc V-twin has this low RPM thump that makes every traffic light pull feel more interesting than it should. Enough torque to haul you and a passenger, and camping gear over mountain passes, without complaining, but never working hard enough to stress itself toward early failure. At 470 pounds, this is the lightest bike in this entire countdown, which means every component from the brake pads to the chain to the tires lasts longer because nothing is working as hard to do the same job. You've got a 3-position adjustable windscreen you can change without tools. A remote preload dial on the rear shock you turn by hand when you load up luggage takes 30 seconds. Low RPM assist that keeps the engine from stalling when you're creeping through parking lots, or stuck on a hill at a red light with your clutch hand getting tired. 3-mode traction control that works without being intrusive. None of this tech is going to impress anyone at a bike night, but all of it just functions year after year without needing dealer software. Most V-Strom owners do their own oil changes and chain maintenance, which keeps long-term costs almost nothing. The real reliability story shows up in the used market. These hold value extremely well because buyers recognize that a bike showing 80,000 miles still has another 80,000 miles left if it was maintained correctly. That's not marketing hype. That's market data. $9,299 for a bike that's been proving itself for over 20 years. Not the most powerful, not the most comfortable, not the most advanced. Just the one that starts every morning and gets you wherever you're going. Coming in third, Suzuki Burgman 400. Every Burgman owner lives with the same low-grade anxiety, the CVT belt. If that belt snaps while you're riding, it doesn't just leave you stranded on the side of the road calling for a tow. It grenades the variator and clutch housing on the way out, turning a $150 maintenance item into a $2,000 catastrophe. This is the high-maintenance reality of maxi scooters that nobody puts in the marketing brochures. 400cc liquid-cooled single-cylinder engine pushing through a CVT automatic transmission, under-seat storage, and 2 front compartments with a DC power outlet. Step-through layout with windscreen and weather protection. Curb weight, 481 pounds. $8,949 base plus $600 destination and a $60 surcharge. Suzuki's 2026 strategy for the Burgman is carry forward continuity, which is corporate speak for we're not changing it because the current platform already works. No first-year gremlins. No experimental redesigns hoping to fix problems that don't exist yet. The Burgman 400 benefits from years of field data on the same engine and drivetrain configuration. That matters when you're betting on a bike to last a decade. The tire constraint is real. Smaller wheel diameters mean more rotations per mile, which accelerates wear. High mileage owners report needing new tires every 7,000 to 10,000 miles at a cost of $300 to $500, depending on where you go. That's predictable, but it adds up. The belt service interval is non-negotiable. Miss it, and you're gambling with expensive carnage. What keeps these running is religious adherence to the maintenance schedule. The platform is mature, the parts are available, and the mechanics who work on these see them constantly, which means diagnosis is cheap and fast. It's on this list because if you do the belt service when you're supposed to and budget for tires as a recurring cost, the Burgman will handle 10 years of commuting and weekend touring without anything more dramatic than regular fluid changes. Not exciting, not fast, just capable of doing boring utility work year after year while you spend time riding instead of wrenching. Second, Yamaha XMAX. Yamaha calls this an automatic supersport, which sounds like marketing department nonsense until you realize they're actually serious. The Max family traces back to the 2001 T-Max, the scooter that made sport bike riders reconsider their entire position on twist-and-go machines. The XMAX is that same philosophy, just downsized and repriced for people who don't have $12,000 to spend on a scooter. 292cc blue-core liquid-cooled single-cylinder with electronic fuel injection, electronically adjustable windscreen with nearly 4 inches of stepless travel you control from the handlebars, 4.2-inch color TFT display integrated with a 3.2-inch LCD speedometer. It has a smartphone connectivity through Yamaha Y-Connect and Garmin Street Cross for navigation. Curb weight of 403 pounds at $6,399 base with $475 destination and a $275 freight surcharge. The XMAX undercuts the Burgman by over $2,000 and saves you 78 pounds of weight. That weight difference shows up in how long everything lasts. Lighter bike means tires wear slower, brakes work less hard, the belt sees less stress, and the suspension isn't getting punished. 73 miles per gallon combined means you're spending money on trips instead of gas stations. Yamaha's Blue Core engine philosophy is about efficiency without sacrificing response. The motor produces enough power to feel engaging without being stressed at highway speeds. The electronically adjustable windscreen isn't a gimmick. Being able to dial in wind protection on the fly without stopping means you're not fighting, buffeting, and fatigue builds slower over long days. It's on this list because Yamaha took the sport scooter concept seriously instead of treating it like a compromise. They built it light, loaded it with technology that actually functions year after year instead of just impressing people at the dealership, and priced it where normal humans can afford to ride it daily for a decade. The small wheels still mean faster tire wear, but at 403 pounds, you're replacing them less often than on heavier scooters. Simple math that adds up to lower long-term costs and fewer maintenance headaches. Last and definitely not the least, Honda PCX. The cheapest bike in this entire countdown shares starter technology with the Goldwing. Let that sink in for a second. The ACG starter system Honda developed for the PCX, back when it was still a 125cc commuter scooter, worked so well they put the same technology in their $50,000 flagship tourer years later. That's not trickle-down engineering, that's trickle-up. 157cc ESP Plus single-cylinder with 4-valve SOHC layout, piston cooling oil jets, borrowed directly from the CRF 450R motocrosser, hydraulic cam chain tensioner, and friction-reducing tech throughout. CVT automatic with a curb weight of 291 pounds, 30-liter under-seat storage that fits a full-face helmet, plus a 1.7-liter front compartment with integrated USB-C socket. 2.1-gallon fuel tank, $4,349 base plus $600 destination. The PCX was the base platform for the world's first mass-production motorcycle hybrid system back in 2018. Honda used this scooter to test technologies that would eventually migrate to bigger, more expensive bikes. The ESP Plus engine uses high-performance engineering, typically reserved for race motors to make a commuter power plant run cooler and last longer under constant use. At 291 pounds, the PCX is the lightest machine in this entire list, which means every single component is working the least hard to do its job. Tires last longer, brakes wear slower, the belt sees less stress, the suspension isn't getting beat up. Less weight means less wear across the board, and less wear means longer intervals between replacements and lower costs over the life of the bike. It's number one because Honda applied flagship-level engineering discipline to a $4,000 commuter scooter. The result is a bike that might genuinely outlast everything ranked above it, simply because there's nothing complex enough to fail in interesting ways. In production since 2009, and Honda keeps refining it instead of replacing it with something newer and riskier. Not exciting, not impressive, not going to win any performance comparisons. Runs reliably for 20 years while costing almost nothing to maintain. From $25,000 down to $4,000, what these 9 have in common isn't price. It's that they were all built to be ridden hard and often instead of pampered and stored. If you're riding any of these and you've got the mileage to back it up, drop your numbers in the comments. And if you know someone shopping for a touring bike who keeps getting told they need to spend more, send them this video. The best validation for any bike is owners who refuse to sell them. Ride safe and see you on the next video.